Hey, Jamie, what's cracking?
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Formal over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just trying to balance your enthusiasm. It is. Yeah. Cheers. Coffee.
Brand placement.
Brand placement.
Does it consider brand placement when we pay dues to the AIA?
I don't think it works that way.
I got this sweet mug. I'll start off by saying I got this sweet tumbler mug because I'm on the Small Firm Exchange. So shout out to the Small Firm Exchange. So they sent us this around the holiday because COVID times, we can't do face-to-face committee meetings. And so instead of a face-to-face committee meeting, each one of us got a mug with some. Have you ever tried the instant Starbucks?
Oh,
coffees?
the Via?
Yeah.
No.
There was one of those. So it was filled with some goodies.
So they knew it was you, and they were like, oh, how do we do coffee for Kurt? And they were like, let's see if we can get some product placement on that podcast of his.
And then now we're talking about it. So a little bit of camaraderie, right? I think it goes a long way when you think about volunteering on these committees and not being able to have for those that have never been on a committee or not really experienced it, you get an annual meeting face to face in the before times, and you would be able to get to meet up with either old friends or new friends. I mean, this is how Jamie and I became good friends, as we were on the Young Architects Forum together, and we had these face-to-face meetings, and then you do the work of the committee, and then you go out to dinner or a tour or something more social and active afterward or in between, and you build these relationships and friendships. And that's how, if anybody wanted to know the origin story, that's it in a nutshell between me and Jamie. So
no, absolutely. I mean, well, and not just that, but I mean, I think you're right. It's that I think that gifts like that and just even just little thoughtful presentations of things kind of gives you just sort of an indication that people aren't just phoning it in, that they're really kind of thinking about who they're working with and how they want to connect to them. I think that's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah, you need to get yourself onto another national committee to
get my Tumblr. No. Well, no, it's just I think it's Jamie's on a little bit of a break from the AIA stuff, but I am actually on a national committee right now. So
which one is it? A secret?
No. Yes,
the secret committee.
It's a black op top secret architecture. No, it's
the coffee committee.
No, it's a preservation technology code committee, and cool. It's actually a subcommittee of that where we're focused on Main Street and historic preservation.
Oh, cool.
And so we're been kind of looking at building codes, and because codes are right now going through a revamp, they're on sort of a cycle, and they have the update, and they have hearings and testimonies and edits and suggestions. And one of the groups that is sort of an organization that's tapped into for suggestions is the APT, the Preservation Technology Group nationally. And they have that focus, and they brought in some people from all over the US to be on this Main Street and historic preservation as sort of subject experts or influencers or folks who are doing it day to day from a different perspective and sort of looking at existing buildings.
That's cool. Yeah, I think in historic preservation, though, the influencer is the building.
Absolutely, and I think it's goes back to that whole story idea, right? Who's telling its story, and how are we interacting with it or discovering what it is? So yeah, that's always, I think it always, the way that you and I have characterized our perception of our careers, our education, and now our practice. Yeah, all that stuff sort of plays into it, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, can a building have a TikTok?
Should it? It's more, I was going to say, and I think you were about to say it too. Should it have a TikTok?
Right.
And then,
right.
and what would be its go-to like karaoke song? So, I mean, it's.
We'll have to come back to that one. Think about appropriate historic songs for a TikTok.
These are the big questions, right, that we spend our times offline thinking about.
The covert committee meeting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it takes a big segue. Like we have like part 1, part 2. Part 2 is definitely that. There's a whole pop culture angle to it.
It's gonna result in something even nicer than this Tumblr, I think.
Yeah.
So your reward.
Yeah. Well, but I think it goes back to what you're saying too, is that it's an opportunity to connect with other folks who are wanting to meet other people who are interested in the same things professionally, but at the same time, there's a service component to it as well. I mean, you and I both got into Young Architects Forum, I think, because we recognized that there was a lot of things that needed to change about and that we wanted to be a part of that change and at least help it. So, but at some point that becomes exhausting. And so you back yourself out of those types of service activities and you focus on other things that are, similar, but maybe a little different.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's my next move, is the Irish goodbye, as one would say. Just kind of disappear.
Just disappear just for a little while. So.
Anyway, so how's your coffee mug treating you these days? You got anything exciting?
I actually, no.
It's not a Via though.
No, it's not a Via, and it's
nothing new.
Nothing new to report.
Nothing of note. I've got some of the Little City that you gave me still.
There you go.
I've exhausted almost the entire bag. And so I had to buy some other Guatemalan and Honduran coffee to not, what do you call it, focus. I didn't want to burn through that bag too quickly. So, but I switched back for today to the Violet Crown, which again has that sort of fruity berry scent aroma to it and taste that I really like.
That sounds like it. I mean, it's influencing now your buying habits. So that's kind of a big thing, right?
Yeah. Thanks to Jamie.
Yeah. Maybe I just need to like figure out what, my coffee funk is and then get something different. I think it's time.
Yeah. So exactly. And I think the sketches that we're going to look at today are definitely going to get us out of all the funk, because Jamie has teased some new techniques, new delivery methods. I don't know. It's pretty exciting. It's always been exciting to see your sketches that pop up every day, something new, something different, or a variation on an old theme or something like that. But the new year is upon us, and Jamie decided to up the ante. And
with a healthy dose of encouragement from my co-conspirator. So yeah,
I've only been asking for like 3 years, right?
yeah, exactly. You've only been asking for a little while.
3 seasons. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we're definitely trying to bring some of the process to light, literally in a different way. And then hopefully we'll continue this experiment, kind of weave it into the podcast and the video cast as well. So
yeah. So before we get into the two sketches that we're going to talk about real quick, but so what Jamie has done is he's recorded himself making the sketches. So it's like the behind the scenes, or the in front of the camera, behind the camera, whichever you want to put it, but the process, as Jamie said. And then he's also done a little movie magic and sort of truncated it down to a 2-minute time lapse, which Jamie already sketches very fast at 10-minute sketches. So it's down to a 2-minute time lapse, which is kind of fun to watch because things move. Obviously, they're moving 5 times faster, I guess, because they're about 2 minutes, right?
Right.
And so, there's my math skills working today.
Yeah, we're on.
But anyway, without sort of giving away too much, it got me thinking just the amount of technology now we have available to us. So somewhat related, but sort of a little tangent. And that within our phones and computers and software, really the ease of use of softwares. I actually, while I'm trying to put this stuff together for the new YouTube channel, I then find myself watching other YouTube videos, right? And I've somehow, YouTube knows I'm an architect, and they're sending me these old videos of Tom Main from Morphosis Architects in a TED talk or at a building talking about one of his projects and so on. They're like 9, 10 years old, 6 years old. Sometimes the YouTube upload is 6 or 10 years old. I think the videos are sometimes even older than that.
Even older, right.
I know a couple are definitely way older. And he, say his TED talk, which I don't remember when that was, but he's showing still image slides, right, of some of his projects. And back then it's some unbuilt work. And now, if you're not, I don't want to put the pressure on, but man, if you're not doing video, right, the moving image is so captivating. And now the ease of the accessibility to that for all of us, even in fairly crude forms, I think, which is why YouTube is kind of blown up, and all the various video formats on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and wherever. Anyway, so that I don't know what to call that segment. That is really just the long form introduction to these sketches. I was trying to give Jamie a little bit
of a runway.
Runway toward when we push play on these time lapses. I don't know. It's fascinating to me. And
it's an evolution of technology that has run parallel to kind of this information sharing. And some of it, like you're saying, I think we're not even necessarily recognizing that evolution as we're living it. And so it's like you were asking me, because we have been bantering back and forth about what's going to be the best way for me to share some of the process while we're working remote. You're in Flint, I'm in Austin. We're still doing this podcast. We're still doing the video. We both have our independent setups, and what's going to be the best way to sort of integrate all those things there's no one else here holding the camera kind of thing. So I think that, yeah, it's some of that technology just sort of has become pervasive in our lives. And as it evolves and changes, we find ourselves adapting to it. And I think becoming, not to draw the parallel completely back to architecture, but it's like I was describing to somebody in our office this week, is when I only learned one CAD program in school. And even that, it was very, very basic course. And it wasn't necessarily tied to architecture. It was sort of kind of learning how to use this CAD program. It was AutoCAD, and in that there was any other kind of parallel programs that used it. We, would do a little segment. It was a course. It was a course in the engineering department. It wasn't even in the architecture department. But
the times change. Yeah.
But then in practice, I have worked on multiple different CAD platforms myself. And I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't put myself in that category of being a proponent of AutoCAD or BIM technology or that kind of 3D visualization. Yes, I know how to do all those things, and I have done those and still do those things in professional practice, but it's not, I'm not a devotee to it. But yet, even in that, even though I wouldn't put myself in that category, I probably have worked in a professional setting on 4 different CAD systems that I can think of offhand. Oh, yeah. And so my point was sort of kind of parallel to yours, is as technology and things sort of evolve and change, it's a lot of just tools. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's just a lot of tools. It doesn't, and you can choose to use them or not. I think what we're trying to do, and I think the part that sort of stands out to me is when you take a tool or learn a new tool and find a way to innovate, find a big way to be creative about it. and kind of put your own little stamp into it. So hopefully we can do that with these sketches and how we fold it into the way we talk about them.
Yeah. The last thing, because it was a good segue as far as talking about tools, but it does your comment about like how pervasive technology or how quickly it evolves. Remember our Manil experiment when we were in Houston trying to live record an episode of, I mean, that's actually, looking back, it's a lot of fun to have stumbled through.
That was like a living an outtake reel. I mean, it was fun. I mean, we had like
cables. I mean, I don't know why we didn't have wireless things. I mean, that's only a few years ago. And then we're like trying not to tip over the camera with the cable with the pen in your arm,
and then there was the guy over to the side, and who knows what he was trying to.
There was the strange guy doing yoga and playing guitar.
I think he was filming himself too. I don't know. It was like,
yes. Well, see, there you go, technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let me queue up. Let me queue up our first sketch here. And so you posted, this is on the 2nd of the year, so the day after New Year's Day, right? That's what they would say. So we've got it paused at the moment. So what our game plan is, and you can edit and correct me, is we're gonna kind of run through this sketch, the time lapse, and talk about what's Jamie doing and the process behind it. And actually, I've got a few questions and comments on certain aspects already, because you posted this on the 2nd, so we've all seen this a few times. So I guess, how do you want to? This is going to be a new topic for us. So how do we do this?
Well, I think
push play and
I think
go, or
I think you push play and sort of tee up your questions, and that kind of will run back and forth that way.
And we'll see.
This, like I said, this is the new one. So
yeah, we'll see. So the first try of going through this. Well, so I'm going to hit go. I'm getting nervous now, as you can tell. All right. So play. So the first thing I remind myself is that you're left-handed. I mean, I know this, but I forget. And my dad was a lefty. And so
my dad was a lefty too.
Oh, cool.
Or is a lefty, I should say.
And so I always remember lefties have to kind of orient themselves to the paper in a different fashion than righties. And so this is interesting to watch the development of your sketch. Does that help? I think the second sketch is going to be a little more important as far as orientation because of the mixed media. But anyway, other than that, I really love seeing the speed. And I think for the educational component to others is that I'm getting really nervous now is to not fret, right? It's not to belabor certain things, right? And that you're blocking things out and then you're coming back and finishing and adapting, right? So,
well, right. And I think that's the whole thing, is that it's, as you sort of watch me do the sketch, is that there's the framing of the page is I'm trying to get I'm purposely knowing that this is going to be sort of I'm going to fill the form and use that diagonal of the book. It's just sort of, it's a little bit of a trick that I wanted to employ based on the pose and the image that I'm kind of working from. But I also knew that I was going to sort of set up this background that you're seeing right now, and sort of it kind of further elongates the page. And
it's going to have to go run through one more time.
Yeah. And so I think that as you sort of see the form it takes shape, but it's also sort of finding its place on the page. And to your question before is, there's an acknowledgement that even as you're sort of seeing these areas kind of getting cross-hatched in and shade and shadow to kind of build up the volume of the body and sort of the turning of one aspect or one form, one plane into another plane, those edges don't always have to be a hard line. They can be a hatched area, and then even a built-up hatch. You also see that the hatches sort of change direction. When you're only using one pen and only one line weight, you can crosshatch gets that extra depth of field and extra weight to the form visually, but changing direction does the same thing. So you can almost read it as one part of that arm in that center section is sort of hatched one direction and the other is hatched in a different. And that gives you a little bit of an angle into those two objects almost intersecting one another. And that's really intentional. And then you can also see that the grip on the pen doesn't necessarily change too much, especially when I'm filling it in a little bit more. But there isn't a whole lot of gaps between movement. It's all really, really pretty fast, and that's intentional.
Perfect. So then we can go to the next one. Do we need to have like a little segue talk, or just go do the next one and then do a little recap?
I think we'll probably be better on the second one than the first one.
I think that was good. I mean, 2 run-throughs, and that's why I paused at the end of the second one. Now we can. It's more like a 4-minute, 3.5.
Yeah.
And that'll, I think it'll be fine. Do you want to try and do a whole thing in the one?
Let's try and do one in the first one. Yeah. For right. this next one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is where you get really nervous, right?
I thought it was good though. I mean, I'm not trying to complain or anything, but
no, it was good. It was sort of like,
this one's solid 2 minutes, so maybe it's a little bit easier. So
yeah,
a little. I'm less stressed out now. But
okay, good. You got all the
heebie-jeebies, the jimmies. All right, I'm gonna push play. So in this second sketch, you're mixing media and starting out with this Conte crayon. And based on what we just talked about in the other sketch, it's very interesting to see the progression of this sketch and how you're, again, like blocking out the entire composition in a very rough fashion. I mean, because it's a figure, right? You're looking at a human figure. So there's certain shapes that you're trying to create. But then it's been fun to watch these sketches because the thing I noticed the most is that it's almost like your brain it knows where to fill in the line work. And it doesn't always appear logical, right? Because of the speed of the sketch, right? You kind of jump from corner to corner sometimes.
Well, and I think I am jumping around quite a bit, but it's the thing about the Conte crayon, and I like to use it. It was something that when I started using them to draw form, you realize that, and I don't necessarily know if this is sort of me breaking the rules. We've talked about those things before, but it's the fact is that you can use the side of the best use of it is sort of the side. It also forces me to go even faster. So, and I'm less afraid of making a mistake with the Conte crayon because it's such a light touch. But even in that light touch and that broad side of the Conte is you get some interesting shade and shadow and the beginnings of volume, especially with a form like this. And there's sort of a suggestion of kind of moving it across the form and kind of creating that edge, but at the same time creating a surface. And there's a suggestion of it. And once that suggestion's on the page, and you'll start to see it here, is suggestion of form is sort of begun by creating a little bit of an edge and a little bit of volume, but then quickly moving to other locations so that you're getting the whole thing. And you sort of see me tapping all the way around, knowing that that's going to be the framework. I'm sort of setting the page, but then literally coming back in now and starting to set a little bit harder edge and sort of playing with a little bit of line weight, but using the Conte to do that. Then it's dropping that and then switching to the pen and sort of filling in that form and knowing where I'm going to go back to. And there isn't necessarily a set, I'm going to start at this corner and move my way around, but there's an ability of building up the form. And I think that's sort of the idea here, is that you're sort of building up the form, but also building up the sketch. And then in areas where there is a deeper sense of shade and shadow, especially with something like this where you're only dealing with one line weight, you can see sort of the attention in certain areas. And then there's some tricky areas, faces, certain features that you want to be a little bit more delicate with in this particular case, or a really fine detail. Some of those take a little bit slower build up in the line work. But then there's also an ability to, once the attention is paid to one of those areas, you see me kind of moving off back to another, kind of pausing for a moment and moving back off of it. because it's just sort of mentally kind of a little bit exhausting. You're working really fast. You kind of have to back yourself out for a moment and then re-engage on the sketch. But then you see it here is I've actually picked back up the Conte to kind of finish off some features.
Yeah. And I think the point to make is and I'll pause it there, but then make the one point about just to, if some students are listening or people that may not sketch very often, I think the point to make is to not think that you have to use an eraser. I mean, well, with pen you can't, or Conte you can't, but
right.
just keep going, right? And seeing where it goes. And I think, as Jamie explained, the process is sort of, it emerges. The sketch is an emergent image out of the process.
And these are, and like you said to at the beginning of it, is these are 10 minutes. This is 10 minutes of time that's been sped up so that we can discuss it here and they can be shared a little bit more readily. But they are relatively quick. There are parts of it that as you're doing it, I'm not sort of dwelling on it here, but there's difficult parts that as I'm drawing it going, that's not quite right. That's not exactly the way I'm thinking it's working. And so in those instances too, sometimes that's where you see me move off of a certain area and kind of focus on some other areas for a little bit and then kind of come back to them and give myself a moment to pause. And even though it's a quick sketch, and kind of move forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I pulled up your grid of for the moment, since I don't want to keep running the sketches over and over again. And so what we'll do is, I'll reveal some of our own process for the podcast, though, is that we're going to try and snip out those 2 quick chats about each sketch and post it on our YouTube and be able to share it as sort of a vignette of the visual as the process, and then the explanation, or the sort of what's the inside the director's studio, or just the peek behind the curtain, as
we need to have we need to set up the stage with some plants. You need some plants
between 2 ferns.
Yeah, we need between 2 ferns. Next time we get on, Kurt's
I think somebody's already got that one.
2 ferns for us. Yeah, that'd be great.
But I think that was a lot of fun. And
thanks for encouraging all this. I want to say that one more time, is that thank you for forcing me into recording my work and trying to lean into my inner Bob Ross moment. That was something I never thought I was actually going to do. I have been asked many times and wasn't sure I would ever do that. So,
well, you're welcome. And we've come a long way since that live Manil sketch that we look back on fondly. Thanks.